everybody, and welcome back to Higher Density Living. You are here for a special guest episode today with my father, Scott McCaig. He's been asking for quite some time to join us here on HDL and talk about one of his favorite subjects, which is the Law of One by Ra. And as you all know, that comes from the Kentucky group that was doing the late 70s trans-state channeling with Carla Ruckert, Don Elkins, and our other good friend we just had on the show,
Jim McCarty.
So before we even get started and we jump into the Ra part, I think the people who are listening need a little bit of context to understand what your upbringing was like before you even got to the point of being able to read something like Ra and say, this is an appropriate way to frame the reference of my life. Like, what was it like when you were growing up? Did you go to church? Was there a religion that you followed from your parents? What was that? What was sort of the process of development at that sort of level?
Oh, that's a good question. I was brought up under two different guises. On my father's side of the family, his mother and their whole family were Catholic.
Yeah.
So he had a strong upbringing as a child as Catholic. And not that he followed the premise, but he had that. And then on my mother's side, she was Protestant. And then when the two got married and they were together, they ended up being Unitarian.
What is that?
Unitarian just means just do whatever you want sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm Unitarian.
Yeah. If you want to call it God, it's God. If you want to call it Jimmy Cricket, it's Jimmy Cricket. But it was what we were brought under, but we were never pushed to grab our beliefs any way than what we thought was our own.
So did your dad ever force you to go to church or to say that you need to read the Bible?
No, he never did.
Was he baptized?
It's a good question. I don't know.
Probably not.
But all I know is that he wasn't, and I know my mother wasn't, but they were not helicopter parents. I mean, they let us do what we needed to do, and he was stern and strict, and he made sure that we didn't screw up and just be stupid about things. But at the same time, he was pretty good about letting us find our own way down the road. So I think that's important.
You guys never said grace or anything over food?
Sometimes, yes, of course. When his mother was there, we'd all say grace, and of course.
So as a formality?
A formality, yeah.
But you never walked around in your daily life and said, I'm going to see my world through the eyes of what God defines it for me?
No, never.
It's never like that for you?
No.
Well, when you looked at things when you were younger, what did that look like to you? What was your understanding of the world?
At that time, it wasn't really, I didn't think I had a real mission with it. You know what I mean? I was just trying to deal with what was coming at me. I had a lot of things going on. Only for that I was busy. He kept us busy. He worked on us every day. And I just don't think I never sat down and said, okay, I got to think about, what's driving this universe, what's driving this world. I like space. I liked science and a lot of other things. It was a mystery. And that mystery was always caused in an inquisitive nature into looking at what's going on and what's happening. And then, one day it was just, talking to you, actually, and it took that long, years later, to finally realize that we saw something that was unique. Mm-hmm. And we're not saying, and just for all the folks out there, we're not saying that this is the way, the only way. We're not saying that. We're saying that it's such a unique, different approach to looking at what's going on around you so that you have choices in this world, because we have free will. We do what we want to do. We make our own decisions, and we need to formulate how we feel we're going to think about things and then flow the rest of our life through that. This was one of the things that we still learn from, as you do. And every so often, I do you look at the Bible once in a while to see if it makes any sense. But this is more concrete, I think. And this was a real surprise to me when I first started reading it. It was a real different approach.
So before you read the Ra material, you spent a long majority of your life being an entrepreneur.
Right.
So did you spend a lot of time thinking about like the formation of your spirit in that impact, or was life really like in a really material sense?
It was a material sense all the way. Never.
And so your focus it wasn't about like mental, mind, body, spirit development. It was just about how do I perform in my life.
Yeah, exactly. It was all performance based. And, with college and rowing and everything else and business, it was just, it was a lot at that time just to deal with. But then as things slow down, you start to look at things differently. And that comes through older age, I think. Sooner or later, something slaps you in the face and says, well, wait a minute, there's something going on here.
What do you mean slow things down?
I just think that you start to think about things differently.
As you age?
As you age, yeah, you do. You do.
Well, I wouldn't know. I'm asking.
Yeah, you do. And I think that sooner or later you're going to say to yourself, what are the avenues? What's going on here? And I think that one of the things that really surprised me, though, it's always been, is about space and the depth and the amazement and everything else that's associated with it, and that there's billions and billions and billions of things going on, and it's all happening every day, every second, all the time, and there's something that has to be controlling that.
So, even when you were younger, you spent a lot of time thinking and fathoming about space? Because I know when, even just growing up here in this house, we had magazines on space, telescopes, you've had sci-fi material you've had since the dawn of time, you've always been hooked on it.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Always.
It was always about astronomy. But the thing is that you went to school for geology.
Right, exactly.
So
I want to see how the world worked and what was happening.
So you not only have the interest about how the world works, right, and how it's formed, but then you start looking at space and what regulates that.
Exactly. But then what I found out was that there's a lot more than just reading books. Yeah. And it's just like, it's a total mind blow.
Yeah.
And then you realize, well, wait a minute now that I've been thrown down this rabbit hole, so to speak, how do I want to handle what's coming at me? So that you pick and choose, because we have free will, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll pick and choose what we feel is a path that we want to work with. And then once you identify that path, then you need to teach yourself and learn about it, and that takes time. And I think one of the hopes you have as you get older is that you have enough time to learn enough about whatever you want to think about, or whatever you want to believe in, or whatever you want to do, that you can use it as a way to lead you for the rest of your life.
Do you feel that you would not have been mentally at the appropriate level to read and apply the material that came from essentially the raw teachings if you learned it at any point earlier? Would it have been the right time if you knew it earlier?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. You need... That's a good question, which I don't have an answer to. It's just the day you showed me this stuff, and I call it stuff and it's not, but the day you showed me these words on a piece of paper, I remember I was at the office down in Delaware, and then I remember copying out of the copying machine because you had shown me a link.
Yeah.
I went on research, the old
website, yeah.
And I looked at it, I read the first page, and I go, what the hell is this? What the hell? And then I read a little bit more and a little bit more, and as I read and read and read, and you've talked about this many times on the show, the way that Ra speaks and the way it's written and the way it's presented transfixes you into something different. It changes you whether you want to change or not.
So
if you're going to understand this, you need to change your mindset to understand it.
And do you think that since you've been reading this over the past couple of years, actually it's been, I don't know how many years it's been.
I just pick at it. Yeah.
You pick at it, but do you feel like your perspective on not only the world outside of you, but also how you view yourself, your pain, your emotions, your relationships, your history, has that all been reframed?
I think so, to a point. And I think it's a lot, as much as this is very difficult stuff to understand, I just think that it was made, and the way the questions were very difficult to begin with anyway when answering them. But I think that it's made for the individual, and you have to be able to pare that down and really understand where you're going with it. And that was one of the things you have to work at. It's not something that just.
So you're saying the book doesn't have this, or the material doesn't have like an overarching thing that says everybody has to act a specific way. No. This is how a perfect human being should be. You're saying that each person can individually approach this and then adopt it internally the best way that works for them.
And to answer your question, Ross says, if you like it, great. If you don't, see you later. Right? Yeah. It's like when you listen to Howard Stern. If you don't like it, shut it off.
Yeah.
It's not for you to make, it's for you to make the decision. This isn't about anybody else but you.
Right.
And that's the problem. We try to formulate this like a religion, like it's like, oh, this is for everybody. This is cool. Well, that's what they would love to have. And that's what Ra wanted to have. But in the end, it's always about you. It's always about how it affects you and how it can transform you from where you are now, maybe a little bit better down the road. And maybe a better understanding of where things are happening in the future.
Right.
And what's going to happen.
And you work in retail right now.
Yeah.
You meet a lot of people from all different walks of life all the time. And the larger majority of those people come from very depressed situations.
Yeah, hardworking. Yeah, that's right.
And do you feel that, like, from what you have learned through your own studies, has been beneficial when engaging with those people?
Yeah, of course, and that's a good question. And you know, when there are many times in retail and these things that come up, and people are just either upset or they're mad about something. And my approach to when someone gets mad at me now is I used to be able to say, well, all right, let's have it out, let's just get this done. But now I don't have time to waste.
Right.
I don't have time to think about how someone's coming at me. If you want to be like this, then go ahead. You got your own free will. You can be a pain in the ass if you want to be, but I'm not going to accept it. I don't want to deal with it. I'll talk to you a little bit, try to help you out, but other than that, just you know, and I'm not being isolated. I don't want to be xenophobic about the whole thing, and I'm not. I'm just saying that if something isn't going to bring value to the conversations you're having, I don't want the conversation.
Right.
You know, we don't have time.
No, and that's what I'm saying. You get all day long a lot of different catalysts, as Ra would say.
That's all
that you're confronted with.
Negative catalyst.
So when you get the catalyst, you have a choice. Do I want to engage or do I want to not engage?
And if I engage, as he also says, it creates a problem.
Yeah.
A distortion.
Distortion, yeah. State of confusion from the free will.
Yeah, exactly. But my free will was stupid enough to go after that because I felt like, oh, you know, maybe my old ways just want to get one more kick in, you know?
Right.
Don't do it. It isn't worth it.
No, it doesn't.
You know, and I think it's called how you pick your battles. And when you pick your battles, in this case, it's how you pick what you want to learn and see if it even has any bearing to where you want to be or what you're trying to do. And a lot of people, and I don't care who you are, but 90% of the time, I don't really truly believe people really know what they want. And it formulates itself over time, like building a nice pie or something like that. It all comes in pieces. It doesn't come all at once. You know, even if you're a doctor and you're the best in the world, you still got other crap that you got to want to do, you know?
Right. Maybe
you like just watching cartoons. I don't know, something stupid. But whatever it is, there's more to it than just, you know, the simplicity of it. But the simplicity of this, though, which hit me every time I read it and the more I read it, it always kept coming back to one thing, and that was me. How I viewed it, how I sensed it. And that's what Ra was trying to do. And I truly believe that he was just trying to tell you these are options that you can have for you. But meanwhile, while you're having this for you, all these other things are happening.
All the time.
All the time. And it's only because of you. This is for you. This is a gift for you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you like it. As I said before, beautiful. If you don't, it's okay.
No,
it doesn't matter.
When you first read this and I had introduced it to you, it's a lady who lays down on a table in a subconscious state while she's sleeping.
Carla.
Uttering words at a pace that is painfully slow.
But there was a reason why they were painfully slow.
And when you grew up, were you ever talking about mediums in your household?
No, not at all. Not at all.
It was nothing of a crazy spiritual sense, was it?
No.
So did that throw you off from looking at this material and say this is just totally wacko?
Well, yeah. In a way, when I first heard about it and when I started to listen, if you go to the old website, you can actually listen to the talking on the tapes. You can hear her speak. And it is painfully slow. It's extremely slow. And there was a reason for that, because Ra could only transmit through her body at a certain speed without her giving her a problem and affecting her. There was a certain wavelength they had to get in order to get it out of her. And she, half the time in the very beginning, had no idea what she was saying. She didn't have any clue what she was saying.
No.
So, yes, I mean, that's very important. And at first I thought, well, that's just BS and this isn't going to work and, this is work. But then when you listen to what she says, and then when you try to justify it in your own mind, you think, is this BS or is it not, or what's happening? The way it's written, you can't come to any definitive conclusion about anything. You can't. You can't take it. You have to read it sentence by sentence. And for all of you who think you understand what this is really saying, maybe you do to a point, but you don't. And there's a lot more to than what we had. This is only interrupted by the fact it's written in the English language. I think if it was written in some complex code, it would be a hell of a lot better. I used to tell you, Alex, when I called you, I said, when I read this, I feel like I'm reading math.
Right.
It's everything is plus, minus, balance.
Right.
Plus, minus, balance. Every sentence is structured so that it's non-offensive, no infringement. Who can speak like that?
No one could do it.
Nobody.
Microsoft couldn't do it, given how woke they are right now.
And what's wild about it, I don't even care if you're lying on a table half unconscious, that ain't going to come out of your mouth.
No, I mean, when I'm sleeping, I ain't blabbing like that.
No way.
No, and then to have such a grasp of the English language, and then do it with such precision over 5 volumes of work.
It's totally mind-blowing. So that started me down the path, because like everything else, I was always mystified, as we all are, with the pyramids and everything. And I remember I used to always talk to you about the fact that, there's no way guys in loincloths built those pyramids. I don't care who the hell you are. And if they did, then I want to know how they moved one block, just one. And I want them to know how they did one block and cut it and then fitted it and made one block and then put another one up next to it. That's all I want to know. And I want to know how they can do it with such accuracy and then do it 2 million more times.
Right. And then I shared with you this literature here, and it happened to talk about the pyramids. Right. Because I think that's what I share with you. I didn't think I shared it to you in the beginning, saying, hey, you should just read this stuff.
No, you didn't. You talked about the pyramids, which got my interest up big time.
Yeah, immediately.
And then when I read the information about the pyramids, I lost it, because it was beyond your wildest concept. And one of the facts, and we'll jump to it just a little bit, but one of the facts and one of these things you can really understand for everybody who wants to check it out. If you look at session 23 in the book 1, you'll see where he talks in detail, or not he, Ra, talks in detail about how the pyramids were built and why they were built. And I think this is very important. It is mentioned earlier in the book, in book 1, in the very beginning of the first couple sections, but it blows right by you and you're not really thinking about it, because there's a lot of things that he calls living rock and thought form and all these other things, which are really over the top type of concepts that we really don't understand. And
do you think that, do you think your father would have appreciated this material, given his educational background?
He would have loved it. He would have loved it. He would have loved to dig at it. He would have been poking at it, and he probably would have tried to refute it, which nobody's been able to do, by the way.
No,
nobody. And I don't think he would try to refute it, but I think it would open up another doorway for him to think about his options in this world that we live in this universe, in this whatever you want to call it, that we can work with. That's all. This is a tool. It's a tool to make yourself either better or worse, or smarter or poor, or dumber or whatever. It's just another thing that it's well worth reading. And you can take it any way you want. It's totally up to you.
Here's a question for you. If you had found out about this before any of your kids were born, would you have told them to read it? Now you're elder to me.
Yeah.
I shared something with you. I didn't tell you to read it, but you found it interesting and you chose to read it.
I would give them the option to read it.
But you would have definitely brought it up and been like, because you never once said, hey, you should consider reading the Bible. You never said that to me once.
Because I had problems with that.
Yeah.
Because if the church would just get the heck out of the way and just leave the words the way they are, and if someone would please go over the actual meanings of every word that's in the Bible and how it's structured in the old Hebrew sense,
right,
I think we'd be a lot better off.
Probably.
It's the New Testament that wrecked it.
14th century Roman,
totally different.
Church Latin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's totally different. And I never did really buy that. And it wasn't buying anything, only because money's involved. Management's involved.
Yeah,
power's involved.
You spend so much time.
Power.
You spend so much time in business. You see the parallel.
Well, absolutely. But in this, never once did they ever mention anything about any. There's no remuneration for anything here. There's no management. There's no structure. There's nothing powering you into it because they speak about service to self or service to others.
Yeah.
You make those two simple choices. What do you want? You're going to be an asshole? Then you want service. You're going to be service to self. If you want to be a nice guy and you want to work with the world and you want to work with what we're writing, then service to others. That's the only choice you have.
Right. And the church tells you don't have a choice.
No, it's either my way or the hell way.
Right.
And I think that, are they really saying that? I don't know. But the thing that bothers me the most is metaphors. Because everybody sees a metaphor as 1,000 different ways. It's like quality. It's perceived, right?
Right.
Oh, you got a nice watch. Oh, no, you don't. It's a piece of shit to me.
Yeah.
Right? So the thing is it's all about metaphors. And I think that, we have to look at that and you have to suck it in. This is not easy reading. It's exhausting.
I never found it easy.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And I said this to you once before, and I just want to go over that one point I want to talk about, is that I really truly believe that if you're going to want to learn this stuff, there's a couple things which I'm not good at and I have to work on, and that is learning how to meditate, learning how to change the way that you think on a daily basis so that you're not wasting energy doing other things that you shouldn't be thinking or doing about, and just trying to calm yourself down enough so you can understand where these people are coming from. It's really, really important.
Yeah, because you're getting a message from somebody who is millions upon millions upon millions of years more advanced than you. They don't feel the pressure of time. They don't feel the pressure of an economy.
They're not in time.
They don't have social issues. They're outside of time. And so when they're talking to you, the words are always truthful because they're not time restricted.
No.
Anything that's restricted by time is not truthful.
Exactly.
It can't be because it's not permanent.
This stuff lasts forever.
That lasts forever.
And does the Bible? Yes.
Yeah.
But the thing is, get the church out of the way.
Yeah.
Get them out of the way. Yes, the words that they were coming from Jesus or whatever, those are good words. Yeah. But you and I have found out that there's a lot more to it than that. The dude was he was an all right dude.
Right.
But why don't we tell the full truth about it?
Right.
What did he grow up in India for? What was he doing over there in the Himalayas? Where did he go? What did he do? They won't tell you that because it's been written and changed and written and changed.
And rewritten.
And it's all metaphors and it's all just too much.
You don't need to hide the truth. The truth is always straightforward. And when you start to put metaphors to try and get some sort of point across, people adopt it, it's unnecessary.
That's right.
Out of the gate, it's not going to hold any value.
That's right.
Because if you can't be clear about what you're going to say, well, then there's no clarity to it.
No, there ain't clarity. And people are going to look at us and they'll say, oh, well, you guys are full of shit. Well, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But we're not asking you to believe what we're saying. I'm just asking you, why don't you go take a look for yourself, read a little bit of it. If you enjoy it, great. If you don't, throw it away and read a comic book for all I care. All I'm just telling you is this is a really cool adaptation to where I would say life and consciousness and everything else in the universe is bound up in.
Yeah.
And these people, the raw contact, have a inroad to that. And there may be something useful for you.
Did you always want to do business when you were growing up, or did you want to do something else?
No, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I was just thrown into it, Mm-hmm. So I was thrown into it. My dad's company, of course, Farfar's company.
Yeah.
But I was thrown into it, and then it was exhausting from then on,
Yeah.
And I think that there was so much more to learn about just learning about the way things work. And I don't mean the things, I mean the way the universe works and the way that creation works.
Mm-hmm.
And, you and I have been going beyond that with beam and stuff like that, and that's another whole conversation that's just totally mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Okay, but this is the foundation of everything, I believe, for people who want to know about it.
So you picked out a section in here
Yep.
that you want to discuss.
Yeah, I do. I think that one of the arguments I always had, and I think, not arguments, one of the thoughts, and you have to read these things.
It's going to be loud on film. Okay, we're good.
All right. One of the things that we want to we talk about is the fact that Ra had said, when he was asked by Don Elkins, how did the pyramids appear? How did you build them? And Ra said, we built them in a thought form way. And then Don goes into elaboration about what is thought form, and Ra talks back and tells him. But the critical aspect was, it blew me away. We said, well, how long did it take you to make the pyramid? And that's talking about the Pyramid of Giza, not any other pyramids, but just the Pyramid of Giza. That was the first one they built through thought form.
The first ones that Ra built.
Yeah, the Ra built. And it was by thought form. And the answer to that, everyone, is that it was a total surprise to them. So what that actually meant was that they woke up one day and it was just built.
They as in the Egyptians.
The Egyptians. Now,
the guys in loincloths.
Yeah. Now, why did they not freak out? Because in some of this stuff that I can read to you, whatever, they were used to having stuff like this happen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So they were very much, surprised about it. It needed to get done, so that was the way they did it. But from what I understood, and when you say it was built immediately, well, it really wasn't.
I guess immediate in the sense of their sense, because they're like, what's...
Yeah, they don't have any idea. There's no time concept. The thing was that in 8,000 years ago, they came down to Earth again, if you want to say that.
For the second time.
They came down, because the first time they screwed up. They came 14,000 years ago, I think is what it says here.
During the Atlantean period.
They came 14,000 in bell-shaped craft, and they actually showed themselves and tried to get into the people and walk around with them. But the thing is that they were misinterpreted. They were
taken as
deities and gods, and they didn't want to do it with any infringement. So what they ended up doing was getting out of Dodge, and they left. Then they came back again in 8,000 years ago because they had a calling. And the calling was both in Atlantis and it was both here in Egypt, and they chose Egypt. And what they ended up doing was that they had to build, the reason why they built pyramids, because in Atlantis they had built pyramids to help them repair what they needed to have done. They had some problems with the flow of energy and other things that happened. And as you know, Atlanteans just destroyed themselves anyway with their technology.
Mm-hmm.
But what ends up happening is Ra built this. But the kicker was, it took them 2,500 years by what we read here. And this is, by the way, for all you want to check, it's in session 23 of the Rock Contact in book 1. They came in 8,000, and then in the year 6,000, the Pyramid of Giza was built. So that's 2,500 years it took them to think about, without infringement, what they were going to build for the calling and how they were going to help these people get rid of their negative energy and to learn more about what the law of one was.
So you're saying the placement of a pyramid,
right?
The architecture
of the pyramid, the guts of it,
what it's going to be made out of,
what's it going to be made of, what's it going to be used for,
what direction it's going to sit. So they had to account for, because it's interesting, if we go back and we look at the pyramid right now, its angles, its sizing, its directionals, you had to know everything geometrically perfect, not only about astronomy, but about the Earth itself.
Exactly.
And so the placement was specific. It was highly intentional about where it sits.
But the reason why it was intentional, because they had to tune the Earth at that time, remember?
What do you mean tune the Earth?
They had to build pyramids all the way around the ring. And they had to build it so that the Earth was getting the right amount of energy coming in from the cosmic universe, if you want to call that,
mm-hmm.
in order to repair the damage that was done over the previous years, and to kind of get this thing realigned and retuned.
So when Ra showed up in the earlier years, they had a significant impact as an extraterrestrial group that infringed upon people's free will. And they understand that thoughts can bounce around and stay and linger.
That's what
so
happened.
those things have to realign themselves. In order to realign, they use physical structures that they built in a lot of different places to realign those energies from past history.
Right.
So that can be better going forward.
Exactly. And I think that the idea was that, and I go back to my original statement, was that when they said it was built overnight, yeah, maybe it was to a point, but it took 2,500 years to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
You know, and then when it did pull the trigger, it was mind-blowing. And what they did use it for, and it was more than anything else, and everybody says it was for something, and other than this, and whatever it was that, it was more towards trying to teach a human what it's like to pass life into death and move on, incarnate, and how to leave your body and then come back in again. Because they used to lock them in there.
Yeah, they'd be locked in the pitch black. There's a big stone altar
No
to
sound,
lay
no
down
nothing.
on, right?
No nothing.
And they would put pharaohs in there. And they say, what you're going to do is you're going to have a disassociative experience from your body. You're going to see what it's like.
You're going to get a mind meld.
Yeah, you're going to move into a different altered state, and then it's going to show you some truth.
Exactly.
But there will never be a priest there telling you how to do it,
No.
right? It's you and your own experience in the pitch black. And when you came out of this initiation,
Right.
you had this level of what it was like to be reincarnated again in a sense.
Exactly.
Only in a not in a real sense, but in a metaphorical sense.
It's always in a metaphorical sense. So that it's not as if, yeah, that was because to make you a robot. No, it's not.
No.
And this whole thing too is also based on the premise of meditation.
Okay.
The whole thing. And if you don't meditate, if you don't work for it, if you don't try to get to the point where you can release what's in your mind and take in this new things or anything that you want to take in, it's going to be a tough road for you.
Was this the first time you, ever really thoughtfully considered meditation?
Absolutely.
Because people talked about it before, right?
Yeah. But here's the kicker, and then I think for the first show that I've been on, I hope, I'd love to be on them again. But one of the things that's really important, I talked about this with you the other day. The reason why people don't meditate a lot is because it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It's just anybody, I just swear to you, if you're not a meditation person, just sit down, shut the lights off in a room, put in pure black, and try to empty your mind. It's almost impossible if you haven't been trained to do it. And it takes effort. And that effort's important in trying to get to where you want to go. But the problem, and one of the problems I always had with religion, was it was too easy to get there. You could walk into a church and say, yeah, come on in, join the group. You're part of the group. You're part of the group, huh?
Yeah,
you're part of the group. Come on in. Oh, Jesus will save you. Good, that's not what it, no. It takes effort. What about, there was a story, I don't know if you guys, but there's a church in London where you and I went.
Mm-hmm.
That shows pictures of this guy who was put in the old diving suits.
Yeah.
He'd go in the Thames River and pull the mud out of the foundation of the church that he was building, and he did it for 50 years so that he could help the church. That's an effort.
Yeah, it takes work.
Yes, it does.
Isolated work.
But look what he did. He saved the church. He saved the foundation. And what he thought to himself was that he created enough of a balance in what he was trying to do that he's done a good job for what he did.
And that's what's required.
And that's what this is required.
Yeah.
But when you sit there and say, oh, sure, I'll put a couple of bucks in, I'm good to go.
Doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't work like that. You can't just come in and listen to some guy gabbing on a stand about absolutely meaningless stuff unless you go in and you learn the history behind it.
Mm-hmm.
It takes effort.
Yep.
If you're not going to do that, then you're just showing up like a weekend warrior coming to pick that paycheck up.
That's
right. it. And
Yep.
the paycheck is you believe it's going to help you and your feelings and everything else. Your guilt feelings and everything else are caused by you and you only.
That's it.
That's it.
Ron never once told you what to believe in or how to act.
Never.
This entire thing is nothing but a giant recommendation.
It's exactly what it is. But the kicker and the end game is what blew you away when you and Jason were on with Jim McCarty. And he says, when it's all said and done, and you can make the final thing and you can do it, you become the creator.
Right.
And that's the key. Because that means it's totally for you.
Yeah.
It's you. This is about you.
It's not about anyone else.
It's you. This is about you, guys.
It's just pure cause and effect, and it's now your choice to take action to develop it any way you want.
Absolutely. And the problem is, people want a quick answer. And this is the last thing I think we should say, but people want a quick answer. And it's all caused by the damn telephone, because everybody wants immediate effect on what they ever say. When you text, you want somebody to text you back.
Right.
You press the button, you want somebody to answer the phone. That's not how it works.
No.
If you don't put the steam in and the effort in the beginning to get answers that you need, and you don't understand the basic groundwork, which is this, or anything else, or even religion, then you're kidding yourself. Now, maybe you'll feel comfy. It's okay. That's you. Bye. But it's not me. It's not you. We're a little bit more inquisitive than that.
Yeah, I think we're just a little bit more curious, and we're not work shy. And I think we're fortunate enough that when you're confronted with things like this, you want to understand it more, and you're willing to put in the effort. It's like sowing seeds in a farm field. Not all of them are going to germinate.
No.
You got to wait for seasons to pass, and you got to nurture. You have to cultivate these things. Your life requires cultivation. It requires learning. It requires work. It requires pain and joy and all those feelings.
That's right. And then you have to be able to step back and say, okay, how did I do? Or did I have the right route? Or did I have... Sooner or later, you're going to come to that.
Yeah.
You have no choice. It's a crossroad.
All the time, and you have to make a choice.
Yeah. And I'm sorry for all you folks that think it's going to be easy and just reading this and you go, oh, wow. No, it's not. It's not. It's where you want to take it, what you want to do with it.
That's how you want to use it.
Yep,
So
absolutely.
either I can build a hammer, take the hammer and build a house, or I can go beat people up with it.
Exactly. And I think that, I'm glad I finally got a chance to come on the show. It's a great show. And the problem is you guys throw so much information out there that people look at it and they go, you have to take it on your own accord, and you'll catch on sooner or later. If you become part of reading this and other books and other things, not just this, but anything else, you'll be better for yourself in the long run. One of the things that my father and his grandfather used to always say is that you've got to read everything. And you do. And if you do that, you'll be a lot better off. But the problem is you're dealing with technology at the same time, and that's advancing at such a greater speed than our spirituality of the universe and our consciousness, that unless we don't stop that, it's going to simply collapse on itself, which it's already done. So we have to have a way around that, and that's going to take time.
Did you ever feel that you would even consider yourself saying words like that or talking like that?
No, but at the same time, it's almost like it's inevitable. It comes right at you. You can't avoid it.
Can't avoid it.
You can't avoid it. You can't keep going. You just can't keep looking for the simple route. You're always going to get kicked on the backside.
Yeah.
You always do. And you got to think ahead and see what you can do and go from there.
Yeah. Listen, everybody, thank you very much for listening in today with our special guest, Scott McCaig, my father, having him here for an impromptu episode of Massachusetts, and we'll get him into the studios over in New Mexico. But thank you again for being listeners of HDL, and we also want to thank our sponsors, QualityMazdaNM.com. If you are looking to get a really nice educational car buying experience in Colorado, New Mexico, or
Pick
Texas
up a couple of them.
Yeah, get a couple Mazda 6s.
And bring them home, have the wife yell at you for buying it.
Give me a couple Miatas. Just click it online.
And help the guys out.
Go buy a damn car.
That's exactly right.
And then we want to thank our other sponsor, Turtle.co. If you are looking to take control of your data online, vault it and make sure that nobody, not even the government, can take it from you. You can go to tartle.co, share that data, and make yourself some extra cash. Thank you very much, everyone.